Welcome. We're going to do a little bit of a review on the Wayground platform. So bear with me here. We're going to walk you through everything that we love and some things that we think could be improved upon in Wayground. So this is a paid Wayground account. So our site does have a full license for everything. If you're not familiar with Wayground, formerly Quizizz, up until about a year ago, this was just a quiz site similar to like a Kahoot type product, and now it is a lot more. I will say their biggest product or the highest value add is still the quizzes portion, but let's give you a little walkthrough of what this looks like. So when you sign into Wayground, you'll see on the left side your library. Your library is going to be anything that you've made before. Then you're going to see sessions. Sessions would be things you've done with students. So you can see what engagement looks like and who took it. And then students will just be your list of students. If you have integration with an LMS, you'll see that here for your Schoology or whatever else you're using. These are just admin controls, so we're not going to worry about that. And then on the main homepage, you've got three options. You've got create a resource, search for resources, and upload. Upload is pretty similar to create. You can upload and create. So these are kind of a duplicate, but just different routes to get there. Search brings you to looking for any sort of topic that other people have made. So if we just look for electricity, you'll see anything that has already been created, assessments, resource bundles, which might be all of these things combined together, presentations. We'll talk about all of these interactive videos, flashcards, and passages. All right, so let's look at the difference between some of these things. So assessments are just quizzes or tests. They can be longer or shorter. I think the cap is 30 questions at this point. I think you can add extras as well, but I don't think many people are using assessments as like full large scale exams, although you could to some degree. We're going to spend most time here, so we'll talk about this a little bit later. Resource bundles is like putting together a unit that has multiple things together. Now, presentations are exactly as you might expect them to be. They are basically slide presentations, but they have integrated content in them. So if I select this one here, it brought up a new window and got rid of my face, but there we go. Okay, so if I select this one here, you'll see it's basically a slide deck, and then it has integrated interactive content or questions that you can engage with on the slide deck. So I think these really depend on the use case of whether they're going to be very good or not. The AI tool that builds these is okay. It's really hard for AIs to build slide presentations based on prompts. But what I like about these would be for like a self-paced learning scenario, you get the engagement while the student is going through the slide deck. What I don't like about this is if you're a classroom teacher and you're teaching and you want the students to engage with the slide presentation, then you actually need to have them have their devices open so that they can engage. And I don't typically like to have devices open in classroom when I'm giving a presentation because all it does is invite distraction. So I don't love the presentation tool for that, but if you're giving a self-paced sort of activity, this could be quite helpful if they're just working on their own. All right, so let's go back here. Let's talk about some of the other ones. Interactive videos, I think, are quite cool. And if you're familiar with something like Edpuzzle, this is very similar to what the Edpuzzle product is. In fact, I think in some ways it's better. Maybe workflow, it's not quite as polished, but every time I try to use it, it gets better. So basically, it's integrated questions and notes into YouTube videos or other video content. So basically, if you want to build one of these, it will just link to the video. You can give it the YouTube link or other link. You can search for it inside Wayground, and you can have the AI tool just come up with questions for you. You can modify them and add your own. You can add notes to it, and it links all directly to your gradebook. Super, super cool. So I do like the video product quite a bit, and it's all included in the whole Wayground package. Flashcards are a relatively limited use case, as you would expect. Basically, it is a flashcard. If you have a product or an activity where you need students to memorize content, then flashcards is a way for you to actually just upload that content and get it quickly generated into a flashcard. And they can sign in and practice the flashcards. Don't think it's as broad of a use case, but could be great for like vocabulary words or topics that are really important to your course that they need to memorize. Passages. Okay, I kind of actually like the Passages product for a few reasons. So let me give you an example of one and just sort of show you what a passage looks like. So let's just grab this one. I don't even know what this is, but okay. Is it going to bring my face up here in a second? If I go back and then back to here. Come on, Loom. All right, there we go. Okay, so as you can see on the left here, you have a reading passage. And then on the right here, you have questions related to this passage. So I think this is really cool when you're having the students do independent reading on a topic. And then you need them to engage with it with questions to make sure you're checking for understanding. I love it for that. I love that you can build these based on uploads. So if you're a language arts teacher and you want to upload poetry or a short story, scan it to a PDF and send it up to the site. Or maybe you have a really horrible textbook that has, horrible in the sense that it doesn't give you a lot of this engagement content. And you'd love to have the engagement content. You can upload that textbook page or pages and have it generate this content with AI. And then you have engagement content for your students. So I think that's fantastic. What I don't love is when you have the AI generate this content on the left, which you can say, give me a reading passage based on electricity or based on some historical event. For the same reason that you can't verify the quality of the content when AI generates it, you don't know if it's just like making random stuff up or not. This is particularly relevant for like literature and social studies, probably not so much for science, but for those kinds of things, maybe you don't want the passage generated from the AI. But outside of that one sort of caveat, I think this is a really useful tool. Okay, so let's go back and let's look at the assessment tools. All right, so back to the homepage. So this is obviously we just talked. You can search for things here. So go ahead if you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Just search for content that people have already made. Maybe you have content already. You can start with the upload button, and you can just upload a worksheet or a reading passage and have it build off of that. Easier, but most of the time you're going to be clicking on create. Now, when I click on create, it says, "What do you want to create?" And in here, I'm just going to say, "Let's create an assessment." All right, now it's going to say, hard to see that from here. Let me move this. It says import worksheets or questions, generate with AI, create from scratch. All right, what this means, create from scratch, is just build the whole thing on your own. Old school, like we used to do before AI. Totally fine if you want to do that. You're going to upload something, and then the AI is going to use that uploaded document to build your assessment. And this is just generated from AI. And kind of the weird thing is that if I click generate with AI, which I usually will, you'll see it brings me an upload button again. So you would still upload if you click generate with AI. So you can upload a document, you can use a text or prompt, you can link to a website, you can link to a video. I'm going to go text or prompt. And I've already created some content here so we can demo this. So let's say I am just finished teaching some Python. It's a computer science course. So I've got the content from my lessons and I want to build a review quiz. So I already told it here. I said, I need a quiz, Python. Here's what I've been teaching. So let's go back to Wayground. So I am just going to paste that in there. It doesn't matter that it's not like super pretty. The AI will figure out what all of that looks like. Now down here, I can also tell it how many questions do I want. So let's do 20. And I'm going to tell it a subject area. Computer science, where are you? There you go, computers. Grade level, I am going to say that this is 6th grade. Now depth of knowledge, you can select which ones you want enabled and not enabled. So Maybe I want only level 1 and level 2, but not level 3. This is just like a general review, not a super like deep thinking kind of assessment. Then I'm just going to click Generate Quiz. And it's going to do its work. And it's going to start digging through my content that I pasted. And it's going to start building my quiz. So this can take a little bit. So if you're doing videos, it takes even longer. But it will send you an email when it's done, and tell you that the quiz has been built. Here we go. All right. So here's what we got. So it came up with 11 questions. I asked for 20, so that's interesting. So this is, now it's going to show me, here's what we have, and you can now review these. You can change certain factors of them. You can change the amount of time. If it's a more difficult question, you can give it more points here. You can edit just the question. So I'm just going to quickly sort of peruse through here and say, all right, does this look good? Yes, that one looks good. I'm not going to do this for all of these for the sake of time, but typically you would review these with a bit of detail and make sure they actually match. Now, if you get down to the bottom, it will bring up similar questions that were recommended. So this might be from other teachers that also made a similar quiz or other stuff it came up with. So let's see, are there any of these that I want to add? Let's see. This one looks good. Let's add that one. I know we covered that. I know we covered strings. Let's add that one. And some of these are cool because they have little example codes in them. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to add? Let's do a true false. Is an integer a number? Sure. Let's do that one. Let's see. What else? Let's leave it at that. Did I get the 15 questions? I'm at 14. Let's find one more. Matching. Oh, yeah, they'll know this one. Okay, so we'll add that one. Okay, fantastic. I've got 15 questions. All right, now that I'm happy with all of these, and there's lots of other things that you can do here in this area. This is also where you can add images to these questions and stuff. It doesn't automatically generate them. But let's see what we're going to do next. Settings of the quiz. So when you go up to settings, you can give it a new name. So I'm actually going to change mine. I'm going to say Python Basics, Codesters, lesson 1 through 6, because I know that's what we were focusing on. Computer 6th grade, English language, teaching goal. Let's see, and do I want a image? This one looks great. Okay, I'm just going to save that. All right, and then you can preview it here if you want to see what it's like to take it. If you're happy with it, and you're just going to hit publish. All right, it's going to take a minute, and it's going to publish it. It will publish this to the whole world, or at least to all Wayground users if you are happy with that. You can always change those settings and decide that you want to, down here in the settings, change the way it's published. I don't really mind sharing it with everybody. You can save it to a folder. You can share it as a link. Now, here's a few ways you can assign it. You could just download a worksheet if you're old school and you want to just get a printout and have your kids do the printout, and you can hit here and print it out. You can preview it once again from here. You can assign it via your LMS or through your roster inside of Wayground, or you can just start it right now. So if you start right now, this is sort of a live interactive. The whole class is doing it at the same time, kind of group feel. So that's kind of how some of you might be used to. If you're doing this as a review activity, that might be fine. If you're assigning it as an assessed quiz, then you're going to click assign. So if I click assign, now I'm going to get to this page. Now here's where you have a lot of different settings on how you assign it. Now, how you use Wayground, whether it's integrated with an LMS or not, is going to be, slightly different. But if you're not using an LMS, then you would have rostered your class, right, already. So if you see here, select a class. If I click on this, it will bring up, your rostered classes. And then if you're integrated with an LMS, it will show them here. Now, a little key caveat here is that you notice I cannot click on these. If you're integrated to an LMS, you need to go to the LMS, go to the Wayground tool that you or your tech admin would have plugged into the LMS and then assign it through Schoology. So for me, I would go to Schoology, I would go to my course, and then I would go to Wayground in materials, and then I would, that would actually open up this screen, and then I'd be able to assign it. So there's lots of things that you could change with the assigned content. So you can change all sorts of different accommodations and how many attempts and due dates and all this sort of stuff. If you're in an LMS, none of this really matters because you set those in the LMS. Only some of this stuff matters. You can change how many session attempts you're gonna do. They have this anti-cheating monitor thing. I haven't played with this, but it's a new product. Probably just assesses if they leave the app at any point in time. And then, when you're done with all of this stuff, you can just assign it to your class. So what's really cool about the LMS integration is that the LTI connects it directly to the gradebook. So if you could see how fast I made this quiz, right? This whole session, we're at like 15 minutes right now. It took me about 4 or 5 minutes to make this quiz. So I could have had this quiz made, deployed to my LMS, and I could be assigning it to my students right now. So start to finish, it's like 5 to 10 minutes max to make a 15 question quiz that is automatically connected to my gradebook. That's ridiculous. So I think that is by far the biggest value add of this platform. All right, well, we're going to get out of this screen and go back to the home screen here. So you'll see now that if I go to library, it'll show it in my library right here. So that's about it. I don't want to get too far into the weeds here for Wayground, but I see lots of high value here. The platform keeps getting better. Like I said, my favorites are going to be as far as the tools go, my favorites are going to be the assessments, far and away the assessments. Video integration is really nice and keeps getting better and better. By the way, all of these can be assigned through your LMS as well, right? Flashcards, I don't think are necessarily something you're going to grade, but you can do any of these linked through an LMS and have it go directly to your gradebook. So, but my 3 favorites here are probably assessments, video, and I do really like passages because it can take like some readings that aren't super engaging and bring engagement and reading comprehension to these reading passages. So these are probably my 3 favorites: assessment, videos, passages. Presentation's getting better, but I don't love the follow along live thing because it invites distraction. Flashcards, just a little bit more limited use case. So that's Wayground. Find it a super high value, really well designed, super efficient AI driven platform. We love it. We use it quite frequently. So that's that. Thank you, Wayground. Thank you all for watching.